Now you should be able to record. I see it.
Yes. Okay, so my presentation is about Lucy Sprague Mitchell and her theories in education. She was a founder of Bank Street College, and I will get more into that the further I get into my presentation. She was born in Chicago, Illinois on July 2nd, 1878, and passed away in 1967. So she was 89 years old when she died. Her childhood played a huge role into how she became passionate in education. Growing up, her parents' expectations of her were extremely high, to the point where she really felt like an inadequate person. She felt like she was incapable of pleasing them, and that really messed with her intellectual, emotional, and social state of mind as well. But oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that it was a very common belief that children should be seen and not heard. And Mitchell just really rejected that. She disagreed. And instead of that letting her bring her down, that actually motivated her into wanting to learn and get educated in children's literature and education. And that is whenever she enrolled into Radcliffe College in 1896. And there she studied John Dewey's theories. And one of his theories that really caught her attention was the education of social function, which is connecting the child to the experiences of others. And that reminded me of one of the videos that we watched during one of our Zoom meetings, where there was an educator that applied content knowledge with real world problems. And I thought it was really neat that it was still being used today. Okay, at a time that it was extremely uncommon for women to get higher education, Mitchell was motivated and just kept going and became the first Dean of Women at the University of California at Berkeley. I couldn't find the exact year. And then fast forward to her move to New York in 1913. That is where the Bureau of Educational Experiences in New York started. There, she was able to coordinate and sponsor experimental schools, as well as maintained nursery schools. A lot of her curriculum ideas actually came from Carolina Pratt. They were named Play School, and they were all actually sponsored by the Bureau of Educational Experiences. And Play School was child-centered. It promoted growth by focusing on each child's mental, physical, emotional, and social needs as well. And whenever I had seen that about Carolina Pratt, I actually aligned that with the book that we're reading, the Little Book of Restorative Justice in Education, Fostering Responsibility, Healing, and Hope in School. And I really felt like it had a lot of resemblance, because I know in the book it focuses a lot on social emotional learning, peace building, and anti-bullying. I know that they focus on replacing punishment with repairing harm. And I really feel like in doing that, you really promote growth in a child. And also it's good on their mental, physical, emotional, and social needs as well. Now, I wanted to ask you guys, can you guys make another connection from our readings or activities that are similar to Carolina Pratt's curriculum ideas? Okay, I'm gonna keep moving. I actually have another example that kind of resembles that as well. Okay, fast forward to 1930, the Bureau of Educational Experiences expands, and Mitchell's goal was to include teacher training. She really wanted to educate a whole teacher into developing a whole child. And what is a whole child? To Mitchell, a whole child was developmentally healthy and emotionally secure. She really wanted to fulfill all of a children's needs, not just the basic physical needs. She really felt that in doing that, if people were to raise a whole child, then society would slowly but surely improve. Okay, here are some facts of the Bureau of Educational Experiences in case I left something out or just to really sum some things up. It served as model for early education programs that were considered developmentally appropriate. It focused on child development. It observed how development is stimulated by experiences and activities. scientific stages of development and establishing norms as well. They learned that language development is extremely important, that children learn best in an environment that is appropriate for their age and stage of development, and that not all children develop at the same rate. Okay, when the Bureau of Educational Experiences got relocated to 69 Bank Street, it was named Bank Street College, and here's what that looks like. All right, so how do Mitchell's theories impact education? It helped people recognize social problems and their responsibilities on what they could do to change those problems or what steps they could take in order to help change those problems. Her work also led to the development of Head Start programs. And Head Start programs provided comprehensive education and social support for low-income children across the country. I thought that was extremely neat.
Mhm.
Okay, so more of Mitchell. She did so many other things that really showed her passion in education. And one of those things was that she offered night and weekend courses for non-matriculated students. And what are non-matriculated students? They're students that had not been accepted for admission to the college, or they just simply lost their status by not enrolling. But she gave them that second chance by offering them night and weekend courses. I read in one, I had read that it was annually, but then I couldn't really back it up to know that it was for a fact annually, but she took trips to visit student teachers to expose them to new physical, social, and political environments. She really wanted to expand their concept of human geography. And then she published a book named Here and Now Storybook, which was based on an extensive observation of children and their use of language and the importance of a more child-centered approach and standard in children's literature. So she pretty much published a book that was based on her beliefs of education. Here is an infamous quote that Mitchell is known for. It says, "We hope to imbue students with an experimental, critical, ardent approach to their work and to the social problems of the world. If we can do this, we are ready to leave the future to them." That really resembles a lot of what we've actually talked about in this course, I believe. We do talk about curriculums, we do talk about TEKS and about the course subjects, but we also talk about how it's not just about like the course subjects and then following the rules, but allowing the kids to be able to communicate with us as well. And, you know, really expanding their minds to becoming critical thinkers and being able to overcome any obstacle that comes their way. So we're really wanting to set them up for their future. And I feel like that resembles what Mitchell really believed in. Okay, so how can we prepare today's learners with Mitchell's theories? We can develop a growth mindset. And how can we develop a growth mindset? Is by acknowledging and embracing imperfections. And that reminded me of the power of yet. I remember we watched the video during our Zoom meeting of Professor Dweck, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, where she speaks about a fixed mindset versus agency, and how with agency, it's more of a creative mindset where, you know, they just believe that they can overcome any obstacle and just keep going. So for example, if a child comes to you and tells you like, "I don't know how to do this," or "I can't do this," you know, you respond with, "I don't know how to do this yet. I can't do this yet." And obviously after helping them out and them realizing like, wow, I couldn't do it yet in that moment, but I was able to overcome that. You know, we're really hoping that they're able to do that on their own, that they can look back to that one day when they struggled and they were able to overcome it. And maybe then they can really use that word. Also by trying different learning tactics. So if you've tried to explain something to a student about 5 times and still they don't seem to comprehend, you could try something else. Use your fellow colleagues, you know, ask for help, and maybe someone will, I'm sure someone will have the resources for you to be able to help a child. Set goals, and you can actually do this in a classroom environment. You can have all the students in the classroom take out a piece of paper and pencil and, you know, ask them, what is something you're wanting to get better at? Or what is something that you are excited about learning? And celebrate that goal or their growth by using affirmations, telling them, yay, I always knew you could do it. Like I knew you had it in you. And excuse me, my dog is going crazy in the background. By attending to their emotional needs. Acknowledging not only their hard work, but acknowledging them as a person. If they come into class in the morning and they are grumpy or not feeling too well, you know, ask them, are you okay? Do you need some time to yourself? And also building rapport. Sometimes when you build that rapport, you don't even need to ask them. They feel comfortable enough to come to you and let you know, like, my morning started off rough. I need some time to myself. And sometimes something as simple as, are you okay? Do you need a hug? You know, sometimes even a hug can turn their day around. Attending to their social needs, allowing dialogue to happen and being able to work in groups. Allowing students to be able to work in groups. But as the days go on, you start to know your students and you start to know the limit of each one, and you know which ones are not comfortable in working in groups. Still assign them a group and let them know, like, hey, you're a part of this group, but whenever you are ready, you can join them. Sometimes they may not even be ready that same day, but the next day, they'll probably feel like, hey, I feel like I can join my group now, and they'll do it themselves. Attending to their physical needs. Food, there's times where kids, like I said, have already started their morning rough, and then they're hungry because they missed breakfast time, or they missed the bell to, I know there's times, for example, at the school that I worked at, they have, after a certain bell, they no longer can get breakfast. So maybe even by going into the cafeteria and speaking to someone that's responsible in there and letting them know, like, hey, I have a student that, you know, came in late and he's really hungry and he cannot focus. Can I just have a little cereal box and, you know, allow them to have it during class? And then that can really help them out in being able to focus. Warmth. I'm sorry, I'm trying to hurry up. My dog is not letting me concentrate. Sometimes there's children that are cold inside the classroom, you know? And I know that it is impossible to keep 15 extra sweaters or 15 extra covers in there, but maybe just keeping 2 of them, 2 extra sweaters or 2 extra covers. And as I mentioned before, you start to know your children. You know which ones have a sweater every day during the winter and just forget it that one day and are cold. But you also know the ones that don't ever have a sweater during the winter. And it's really sad whenever a kid can't focus because they're cold, and that's something that can be fixed. You can allow them to borrow a sweater or a cover, and then they can focus. And lastly, Go Noodle. I'm sure there's other websites out there, but Go Noodle is one that I'm familiar with. And they have a lot of exercises, and they also have some music and dances that the kids can do, and it's a little brain break, and they can move around, get out of their seat before they get back to work. And that's it. That's my works cited page.
Thank you, Celeste, for the presentation.
Thank you. I apologize. I don't know what's going on out there, but my dog is just...
Well, no, I apologize to you because I got you started late. But I would like to take this time, if anyone has any questions for Celeste about Lucy Sprague Mitchell, any more information that you might need that she can provide to you.